a lot of people in this Neptune and Pisces time are kind of talking about that you can control everything. You can manifest love in a day. You can manifest texts in a day. You can manifest money in a month. And it's just not a belief I hold anymore, because I've realized, being an astrologer, that it doesn't matter how much you believe something, your life is timed beautifully. And that gives you so much release and the ability to surrender and let go of control, so that you're not micromanaging or like obsessing over everything that you think. You can just trust that you're going to be where you're meant to be. And there will be hard times. There will be challenging times. There will be good times, but it's what you make of it.
Hello from Amsterdam.
From Brooklyn, New York.
From beautiful Ubud, Bali. From San Diego. I am in Iceland right now.
Shanghai.
I'm in Paris at the moment. I am here on my Jupiter descendant line in Tallinn, Estonia. Hello from Biarritz in France.
Hello, everyone. I am super excited to introduce today's guest, and that is Helena. She has been my astrocartography inspiration for the past couple of years. And today we get to interview her and how she created a life of alignment using astrocartography. Hello, Helena.
Hello. Okay, thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited to talk about this.
Me too. So before we dive into astrocartography and what it is, I would love to explain Helena's human design chart. Helena is a 3-5 sacral manifesting generator, and her purpose is to find her own path in life and make a positive contribution by inspiring and empowering others to do the same for themselves.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So, Helena, how did you find astrocartography? And I'm really curious what you were doing before, because as a 3-5, I'm sure you tried so many different things.
So many things. I know. I've had so many careers. It feels like I've lived many lives in one. I grew up as a kid obsessed with acting and performing and theater. And I grew up on my Leo Moon MC line, which is big for performers and actors. Moon MC is big for actors. And so I grew up doing theater, and that was like my life obsession, was doing performing and theater and stage work. And I did that from about 7 years old to about 21 years old. I moved to New York when I was 18. I just went full force, went to college for a year, dropped out, got a job at an off-Broadway theater, and just started auditioning and booking shows and theater gigs in New York City, but also outside of New York. And then I just had this awakening when my dad passed. My dad passed when I was 21. And I just realized that life was really short and time was everything. And you got to have fun doing what you love, because if something isn't fun or it doesn't light you up or it doesn't give you that excitement, it's like, what's the point? You got to do something that you're like having fun with, And so when my dad passed, I just had this wake up call of like, what are my values? What's really important to me? What makes my heart come alive? And over the years, when I was kind of leaving acting, when I was living in New York, I was really interested in blogging and photography. And I knew right away that I wanted to get a camera. And so I got this used camera on Amazon. I got this used camera on Amazon, and I just went full force and just dove right into photography. And so I started playing with different types of photography I wanted to do, whether it was families or actors or street photography, travel photography. I did it all. And I was a child and family photographer for about 5 years. So I had that as one business. Then I moved to Europe and I moved to France, and I was continuing to do that. But it wasn't flowing. It wasn't lighting me up anymore. And I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do next? COVID happened. I was stuck at home. All my sessions were canceled for my business. So I was like, oh no, I need to find something that allows me to keep making money even when the world is going through crisis. So I started doing YouTube because I was having fun as a hobby, just recording videos of my travels as I was traveling through Europe when my husband and I moved to Europe. And so that turned into just a place to share my thoughts and share my things that were interesting me at the moment on YouTube. That grew. And so I became a YouTuber for a few years, and that was like my income source. And then I was like, I'm not really feeling YouTube anymore. It's not really lighting me up in like focusing on making that my income and that making my whole business. I didn't like the idea of YouTube, being a YouTuber full time. And that led to sitting down on my yoga mat in meditation and just getting the wisdom in meditation of, you need to talk about astrocartography.
Yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere. I had learned about astrocartography years prior, but I never talked about it. Like occasionally I would talk about it on Patreon or my blog or a YouTube video every now and then, but I would never like go all in with it. And I was told in meditation that you need to like go all in on this, and you need to make a blog post, and you need to make a video, and you need to post it this week. And it was so clear. It was so clear. And so I did it. And literally that one blog post, that one video just got picked up on Google search results. It became like the #1 blog post for astrocartography on Google. And that started my business. And that just kicked off like this amazing business that I've built over the last 2 years of doing client readings and now teaching courses on astrocartography. But it's just wild that
Sorry.
No worries. It's just wild though that all the little markers, all the little things that I did, the little curiosities, the little interests I had, they kept leading me to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I think if I had thought about this years ago of, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a YouTuber, I'm going to be an astrocartographer, I'm going to do all these things, I don't know if I would have gotten started with that, because it just seems like a lot of work and it seems kind of chaotic and like you're pivoting a lot and there's a lot of change, but it's actually been the most joyful unfolding of exploration and experimentation and curiosity and following the excitements as they come up at random times and just walking that path and going down that road. It's led to the most beautiful life. And it was just from following my excitements.
This is so amazing that you're saying this, because the reason why I felt drawn to you, or we had aligned, is that you seem so aligned. And I know that you know a lot about astrology, obviously astrocartography, but in human design, we try to help people to find that enjoyment and that inner voice. And you naturally seem to find that yourself by just following the breadcrumbs of in human design, we call the intuition the authority, because it's the only authority in your life that can decide whether something is gonna fulfill you or not.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, there have been times where I've tried to do what's expected of me, or I've taken action to make people happy, to make my YouTube followers happy, to do what my family wanted, my mom wanted, my partner's family wanted. And every time I didn't listen to my inner voice or that inner excitement in my gut, and every time I ignored that and did what others wanted of me, I was miserable and stuck. And that feeling of being stuck and feeling like I don't know what to do, that's always happened when I've listened to other people's guidance instead of my own. And every time I've ignored or rebelled or been like, nope, not doing that, I'm listening to this, it's always led to the most incredible unfolding, the most beautiful manifestations, the most beautiful feeling of contentment, personal fulfillment, excitement for life. When I honor myself and my own gut and my own authority, that's when the magic starts appearing in my life. It's never when I'm trying to do what other people want from me.
I love that so much, because you are a pure individual in human design. So every gift that you have is designed to empower someone else. And when you have a pure individual design, it means that you're often doing things different. You're often the let's say the alien in the room, because you're doing something new, something that has never been there before. And it takes a lot of trust in yourself that, hey, I'm going to go first here, but I have a feeling that it's going to go well. And in the beginning, people look at you and they think you're a freak. And then they see, actually, it's working out for her quite well. Maybe I want to try it as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember when I started talking about astrology and astrocartography online, and my followers that had been following for me years, they were all like, "What? This is weird." And like, but they get into it at some point. They're still following me. They're still curious because they're like, what is this astrocartography? Like, this is really exciting. And same with my husband's family. Like, they're all very traditional, go to college, get a degree, get a 9 to 5, have security, no risk. And I've always just never understood that perspective of life. And I've always rebelled against it, even when they didn't like that, or there were arguments or conflicts between me and them because they didn't like what I was doing. My husband has always been so supportive of me, though. Like, he's always loved that, like, making your own path in life, doing your own thing. He's always loved that about me. And so I'm glad I've had his support. But over the years, as I've built this business and I'm now supporting my husband financially, and I'm, building his retirement account, and then I'm investing in our future, his parents are like, "Oh, wow, like, this different path actually worked." And it's something that I continuously experience in my life with many people all the time, is just like, people think I'm weird or different at first, but over the time they get curious. And it's not something I even think about. I don't think about whether people will like it or not. It's just doing what lights me up. Because when my dad passed, that was the awakening I had, was life is short. Your time is limited. You might as well do your own thing in life. And who cares what other people think, because your time is what matters. And that, like, awakening of big picture, oh, wow, like, time is really important and your life matters. What you do to bring happiness to your soul and your heart is so important. That's when, like, everything just really aligned for me. But I will say there's kind of like 2 things that I do that I think might be really helpful for other people with this, is journaling. Like, for me, I've always written in a diary since I was a little kid, and like throughout my teenage years, young adult life, I've always written to my intuition, like, dear God, dear inner voice, dear intuition, what would you have me know? How can I approach the situation? Why is this happening? What can I learn from this? I've always naturally had that mindset of, like, this challenge is being presented. What can I learn from this? How can I get through this? And I think that building a relationship with your inner voice, whether it's through writing, and building that long relationship of constantly going back to your gut and your inner voice and your intuition. And then the second tip is, like, the more you consistently take action on what your inner voice is saying, the more you build that really strong relationship with it, that you are going to start trusting that all the time, even when it seems crazy to do so, because you've seen it work so many times in your life. And I actually have a record. Like, I keep a journal with like this happened, this ping came in, or this that's from To Be Magnetic calls them pings. But it's like, I got this intuitive hit, I got this gut feeling, I acted on it, and I did this in terms of action. This was the result. And it's like, you could look back and just see, wow, that led me to this path now. And now I have that deep trust. But it's because I connected with the inner voice, and then I took action all the time, and I trusted it, and I didn't doubt what it was saying.
It's so beautiful. I do this too, where I don't write it out because I don't like my handwriting, and then I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh, no, this is not for me. But I have a conversation in my head with the universe or whoever is there. I mean, we don't really know. But
Yeah.
I believe in energy, and I say, please guide me through this event, or have me say what you want me to say. And every time I get in connection with source, the universe, everything seems to work out. And what you're explaining is so important for everyone to know. In the beginning, your intuition or your gut will probably prompt you a lot of times to do things that are uncomfortable. Maybe it is to have a little bit of a risky conversation or set a boundary. And in the moment, it sometimes doesn't feel nice. But when you do it, you can feel how you go from feeling contracted to feeling all wide and spacious again. And your joy and your energy comes back to you. And that's really something that no one can do for you. You need to give yourself the permission to just follow that energy and follow your gut. And I mean, your life is the perfect example that when you do that, you really, you create the life that is meant for you.
Yeah. Creating a magical life. Yeah. And it's just from trusting yourself. And I wish that in school as children we're taught that. Like, number one thing you learn, how do you trust yourself? How do you trust yourself? Like, if we had that tool, that skill of trusting, self-trust, imagine what we could do with our lives.
I know. And in human design, in 2027, a new era will begin. So we're coming from this age of planning and strategizing and having everything according to a system, right? And we're moving into, maybe it's in alignment with astrology, the age of Aquarius. I'm not really an expert on that. But from the human design perspective, from 2027 onwards, there will be a very individualistic background frequency. And the support, the tribal support that tells you you have to get married, you need to have kids, and you need to find a job and stick to it, will disappear. And we already see, big institutions starting to crumble. People don't trust the governments anymore. There's a war starting, and there's so many different opinions on it, and nobody knows what's true. And that's actually why human design was brought into the world, to teach people how to trust themselves, how to make decisions that work for them. And if, there's so much out there that is trying to get your attention or scam you. And if you don't know how to listen to your inner voice, you're going to be really confused.
Totally. Especially right now. I mean, we have in astrology, we have Neptune in Pisces, but now Saturn has moved up to Neptune. So they're together right now. And Neptune is confusion or not knowing what's the truth. Is this World War III? Is this the start of World War III? What's true? What's fake? That's Neptune in Pisces. And now Saturn's come up with it, which is like, there's a mass confusion, can be hysteria, but also that sense of conflict and difficulty in terms of discerning what is fact and what is not. And so we're in that right now at the moment. And then when we get into 25, this Saturn Neptune will together, they'll move into Aries, which is more about individualism, autonomy, self-starting energy, but it's also conflict and it's confrontation. And so we've been in this spiritual wave since 2011. 2011 was when Neptune entered Pisces. And this is when, law of attraction, manifestation, astrology, tarot, Reiki, all of these things started getting really into our collective consciousness as like a group. We've all like seen it and we're very accustomed to it now. But with Neptune and Saturn and Aries, there's going to be a lot more self-empowerment, less confusion, less escapism, less feeling like in the dark or a little bit lost and confused. And so in some ways, it's really nice to get that Aries empowered energy, self-ownership, self-accountability, taking, your life in your own hands kind of energy. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot more like sense of what is true in the sense of faith, religion, spirituality. I think a lot of that is going to come under fire as well. So interesting time to be alive, especially with Pluto now in Aquarius. It's like, how can we help others? How can we work together as a collective, humanitarian things? That's going to be getting bigger as well in the next 20 years.
That's so aligned with what human design is saying as well.
Wow.
I'm really curious, for everyone who doesn't know what astrocartography is, could you explain what it is and how people can use it to create a similar life to you? I mean, obviously everyone has their own life. But how they can utilize this system to their benefit.
Yeah. Astrocartography is the energy of place. So it's talking about where in the world you feel differently, energetically, how are different places energetically different for you, but also they show the parts of the world where you have stories activated. So I like to think of your birth chart as your natal promise. which is the idea of your birth chart is showing all the things that will happen to you at some point in life. A lot of us like to think that the birth chart is just showing our personality or who we are, but it's actually showing so much more, like what is your relationship to children, your parents, your friends, society as a whole, spirituality, your partner, what's your partner's story in life? There's so much we can glean from a birth chart, and it's just a matter of when the natal promise is activated through timing. So certain things are laid and baked into the chart, and when timing happens, it activates those lessons or themes or stories. It's the same with your map. So your astrocartography map, you have these parts of the world where you'll see all these lines crisscrossing in different areas of the world. And there can be these stories or these narratives that are happening in different parts of the globe. Whether it's you going to those places or that area of life, that culture, people from that part of the world are coming into your life where you are at that point in time. So it's like we are one. When we travel and move to different areas, our consciousness is being explored through different facets. So we're able to see life in different filters, new ways. The color of our perception changes depending on where we are. But also, it shows us the narratives of what parts of the world, the country, do we have activations of career growth? Where are there important places where relationships come into our life or important people in our life? Where are they based? Where is home? Where is that feeling of nourishment and home and safety and comfort in terms of land and earth and family? Where are there parts of the world where we are exploring ourselves and who we are and our identity and what we came here to do as individuals rather than in relationships? So it's this idea of we can travel, but we can connect with different parts of the world to explore these aspects of consciousness within us and the stories and the themes of life as well. And so basically what astrocartography is, the foundations of it, is your birth chart moves depending on where you are in the world. So just like how you have a birth chart where at that point in time, at that exact place, when you took your first breath, that's the chart. But when you go to a different part of the world, the chart shifts and moves and shows different areas of life coming into focus. And that's what the map was created from, was from all of the relocated charts in all of the world. And in the 1970s, Jim Lewis created this software where he took all those charts and he put it on a map so that you could see, oh, that's where that planet was angular. That's where that energy is really strong here. And so now we have a map where we can see at a quick glance what stories are happening in different parts of the world for us.
Oh, I love it so much. I found astrocartography a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And in the beginning, I didn't really take it serious. I was really curious about it, but at the time, I didn't implement it. And when you just have information in your head and you don't apply it, and nothing changes. So last year, I went traveling to Mexico and Costa Rica, and I planned my whole trip with the astrocartography map. And I had the most amazing time. I had been doing my human design business before, but I felt a little bit stuck and stagnating. I'm living on my Neptune line in Amsterdam, a Neptune MC, and I feel really blurry there all the time. It's great for artistic expression and for like abstract thoughts. But if I wanted to get some shit done, I wanted to lay some groundwork and some structures for my business. And I knew that I need to change my environment. So I went to Mexico first, and it was my Pluto MC line. And I completely restructured everything. I started to give human design workshops, and I found people that were interested in everything that I had to say. And it was just so healing. And then I went on to Costa Rica, where I was on my Sun AS line and the Uranus AS line as well. And I have never gotten so much recognition than being on that Sun line. And it was just healing. As a projector in human design, we live off recognition. We're here for the other. We want to provide wisdom and guidance. And the environment that we do that in is so important. Because if you're, it's the same with plants, right? If you put a plant in unfertile soil, it's not going to grow. And it's the same for us humans. And ever since that trip, I'm not going anywhere without having checked my astrocartography map. Obviously, the intuition, the authority has to be aligned there too and has to give the go. But even now, I'm in Barcelona on my Sun MC line. And I mean, you can probably better explain that. But to me, how I understand that is you get a lot of attention in the area of your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here since Sunday, so since 3 days. And I already got a couple of invitations for collaborations. Yesterday, I gave a human design workshop. It was packed.
Wow.
People loved it. And it's just, it's too accurate to not apply it.
I know. It's crazy. I mean, when I first learned about it, I had like traveled all over the world and lived in so many places. And so I looked at my map, and it was like the places that were difficult were on really difficult lines. The places where I met my husband, I met him on my love line. It was just so many things. It's insanely accurate. And I've worked with over 2,000 clients at this point since starting my business. And it's just every single client session, it's just fascinating how certain stories line up with places they've lived in very specific ways. And then you add in the component of timing, where it's like you're going to the right place at the right time. So it's like you're supercharging that energy. So when you've got a really cool transit that's affecting one area of your life or a planet natally in your chart, you could go to that planetary line when you're getting that cool activation of that. And that's when it's like, oh, wow, that's really magical. It's just wild. I've also had a lot of clients where they'll go to their best places, but they're going when they've got really hard transits in that location. And it's like, it's not as great during that time when they're there. And that's where the intuition comes in. It's like our intuition always knows where to go. And what I always do is if I don't get the 100% gut yet, yes, I do not go. Regardless of timing, regardless what the map says, it doesn't matter. If the body, the gut does not feel like, oh yeah, that's it, and so I always write down a list of like, what are the top 3, 5 places that are calling to me? If I just didn't look at a map and I didn't look at timing, and I was just following my inner voice. And then from there, I'll pull up the astrocartography lines. I'll pull up the parens, which are the latitude lines that are going through specific cities, areas on a latitude. And then I'll also pull up the timing to see, okay, what's being activated in that place right now. And from there, I'll then break down the list into like top 2, maybe 3 places. And it's something I've been actually exploring with lately on my travels, because I'm on a year journey of like going to all my lines and timing it and then recording and documenting it for YouTube and my book and things like that. And it's amazing how like the places that I feel a little bit off on, the timing isn't right, or there's some difficulty happening there. And the places that feel like 100% hell yes, which by the way, you helped me find this next place. I'm excited to tell, because you really helped me in the last time I chatted with you. So you've like really influenced where I'm going next. But when you get that gut yes, it's like you don't even have to hesitate on getting the flight. You don't even have to hesitate on when you're going to go. It's like, you just know, like, I got to be there. And so I'm actually heading to my Sun Ascendant line, the Sun AS line in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I'm going to go live there for a month. And I've always felt called to that part of the world. I've always felt a connection to the UAE. Don't know why. Like, I don't know anything really culturally about the UAE, but I've like always felt a draw. And my sun and my lunar nodes are there too. And I've just been sensing that I'm on the verge of like another soul up level. And you mentioned in our last meeting that your gene key, like if you follow the planet that's connected to your gene key, when you said that, I was like, ooh, I'm so curious. And I was in the shower and I literally had the idea of UAE, go to the UAE. And I didn't know what was there, but I pulled up my map right after I got the epiphany, and I have my sun line. And you mentioned that the sun line it was connected to my gene key 8, and that would be a really interesting place to check out. And so now I'm just like, oh my God, that's so weird. And also timing wise, my sun is being activated by Jupiter. So it's like a really nice time to go to a sun line at the moment. So do you see how it's like multiple things, like the in the inner voice, you like having like someone mention something, feeling good about it, looking at the timing, looking at the map. It's like when you see all of that, it's like, ooh, how can you not go to a line, you know?
It's so exciting. And you know, I love astrocartography, especially for generators and manifesting generators, because your gut works only in response. So you need something on the outside that your gut can respond to. And when you look at that map, you see all of the lines and you maybe scan over it, and your gut will feel drawn to a place, and to others it won't.
Yeah.
And that's a sign that, hey, your body is saying, I'm going to give you energy to go to this place. And I love that this is like typical 3-5, you know, we get an information and immediately we want to try it out. We're like, no big research. We just let me figure it out.
Yes, that's exactly. I don't know anything. My husband was like, you know, you're going to have to like cover your hair and everything when you're there. I'm like, oh, really? I don't even know.
So,
I'll find out when I get there.
Exactly.
Very 3-5 experimenting. Yeah.
We just go first and we don't care. And I think, you know, sometimes it can be a downfall, but most of the time, I feel like when you think too much about it, you end up not doing it. And my experience of being on the sun line. So just for everyone to know, the sun is the planet in human design, which gives you the biggest imprint. So around 70% of your personality is made up of that conscious sun gate. And for you, that is 8. And gene keys 8. And it's all around making a contribution, getting clear on what contribution you want to make to society and the world. So what I would say before you go, you probably know your gene key 8 in and out, but also look at the shadow expression. Because when you're on that line, not only the positive comes up, but also the negative side can come up. And how to navigate that is to use, again, your strategy and authority. So you wait until something is in front of you and then you respond. And that's how you can move again from the shadow side to the gift expression.
Oh, cool. Thank you for that tip. I'm going to do some prep on the gene keys. I don't know too much about gene keys. I think gene key is like, it's the one like key in your human design that's really active. Is that what it is?
Well, the gene keys is basically a deep dive of all the gates from the human design chart. So human design is the system that incorporates many different modalities and is very practical and doesn't only tell you about your gifts. But the gene keys, it's actually derived from human design, but it goes so much more into depth and it tells the story of that specific gift and how you can move from the shadow expression to the highest expression, right? That the potential of that gift. So I really like it to contemplate and combine it with human design because it's quite. Do you have the book, the Gene Keys book? It's written by Richard Rudd and it's really good. For me, however, I need to read it very slow and digest it because it's there to contemplate on it.
Okay. It's called, what's the author? Gene Keys by?
Richard Rudd.
Okay. I'll get it before my trip for sure.
I love that. This is exactly the 3-5. Honestly.
Oh yeah. I just try everything and see what sticks. And if it doesn't stick, you just move on. Like that's always been my way of living life. Just throw the paint on the canvas. And if it sticks, great. You got a work of art. You can teach people how you made the work of art. But if it doesn't, that's okay. You can try something new. Exactly. And it's so funny when I talk to fellow 3-5s and I like describe what it's like to be a 3-5, people don't like to hear it. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear that you have to make lots of mistakes and you fall on your face a lot and you have to get up and like regroup and shift things, and then you teach others what you've learned through trial and error. People don't want to hear that because they don't want to make mistakes, or they want everything to be easy. But I don't know if you feel this way, but I love it. I love the making mistakes and then finding new routes to go down and then teaching people from those mistakes. I love that way of living.
I love it too. I grew to love it because I was really, like, when I was younger, I was really insecure about my gifts, because in school there's no trial and error. There's a test and you have to get it right. And if you don't get it right, then you get a bad grade. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to survive in this world? But now I just take the failing as part of the process. So for example, yesterday, it's such a typical 3-5 story. I went to the workshop that I gave, and I left the house very early, like earlier than I usually would, to take the bus to go there. And all of a sudden, the bus stopped, and I realized, oh my God, I took the bus in the wrong direction. And at the time, I had, I think, 40 more minutes until my own workshop started. And I was 40 minutes or so away. I was like, okay, fuck, what do I do? But I found a taxi, luckily, and I made it, and I arrived 5 minutes late. But just like this, being comfortable with the imperfection, it was so hard for me to learn that, especially because the 5 on the outside, we get projected on so much.
Oh my God, can we talk about that for a second? Because that's been coming up for me a lot this week, is like the frustration of like, why is this my life? Why is it that my whole life people always project their own stuff onto me, and I have to like separate myself from that and be like, that's not to do with me, that's to do with them. And it's like, even if I'm just living my life, being happy, doing my own thing, not bothering anyone, it's like everyone puts their own stuff on me. Does that happen? Is that a part of being a 5?
Yes. So the 3 on the inside is how your personality works, how your mind works. There is a description of the gates that, like the gifts that activate this 3-line personality. And then on the outside is the body. So your body is a 5. It's a projection field. And what I have noticed is that people either, like, especially when it comes to like dating, men project on my body. And they're like, oh my God, you're so good looking. And I'm like, I have so much depth. I have a really big personality and a great mind. Why do you reduce me on the body? Or even my parents, they would always comment on how I looked, how much weight I gained, or how much weight I lost. And there was so much, projection on the body that 3 5s, and I mean, everyone who has a 5 in their profile, they like to just hide and not be in the projection field of others, because what happens is that in the beginning, the projection is mostly positive. And the reason why that is positive is because we are here to bring a practical solution. And in order for the others to be open to that solution, they need to think we're the shit, basically, right? So then we drop the solution, and then actually as a 3-5, you should leave the crime scene. So you put the fire out and then you leave again. The problem is that, especially when you, for example, work in corporate, after you deliver the practical solution, you cannot leave because you're working 40 hours. So you have to stay for the rest of the time. And then this positive projection slowly turns into a negative projection. And if then, after you delivered your solution, something else goes wrong, they look at you again and go, okay, can you fix this as well? But it doesn't mean that we have a solution to everything.
I know. Oh my gosh. And I got to go deeper into human design. I'm already like fascinated. I feel so seen. I feel so held. Isn't that great? That's what astrology does too, is it's like, it gives you that confirmation of like, that's what it is. And the same with place. It's like astrocartography. It's like, that's what's difficult. It's like the place is reflecting that there are difficult experiences being had and lessons to be learned in certain areas. And that's not good or bad. I follow the Stoic notion of like nothing is good or bad. It's just preferable or unpreferable. And there's always something to be learned through everything. But, it's that sense of like with astrology, with human design, with place, it's like it gives you that confirmation logically of like, that's what it is. Why does this keep happening? That's that story that's happening.
Yeah. And I honestly, like as a 3-line, we learn through trial and error, and we're always interested in why. How does it work? How can I use it? How can I apply it? And you teaching astrocartography, it makes so much sense because, I mean, first of all, your purpose is to make a contribution and to empower others to just create their own life path. Mm-hmm. And then your motivation in human design is called need, which means you are giving people what they need in order to turn their life around. And it's this energy of, I give you resources, I give you information, and I inspire you. Here are the tools. Now go run with them and do it yourself. Because as a 3/5, we don't like hand holding. We're like,
no. Oh, no. Anytime I sense thirsty energy, I'm like running this way, totally. Yes, it's like empowering other people to do it themselves. And like, you've got this, trust yourself, giving you the tools, go,
Exactly.
I love it. Wow.
So I'm really curious, how did you, because as well as a 3/5, you, even when you learn something that is like meant for you, you in the beginning make mistakes and you bump into things that don't work. Mm-hmm. What were the things that you bumped into with astrocartography at the beginning that you now would say, I would do it completely different? Because people, the 3/5, we go the hard lane. We find everything that doesn't work. And then at the end, we can tell people, oh, don't go down that road because it's a waste of your time. So I would love to know what your insights are.
Oh, yeah. So the first one is I didn't use parents when I first started astrocartography because I learned in the way that we all learn, which is you're on Instagram, you're scrolling, you see someone pull up a pretty map and they say, go to your Venus line. And so, oh, you think I'm going to go to my Venus line? It's going to be great. But I didn't know at first, and that's where I went deep into the research and took lots of classes and had a mentor and read a lot of books and did my own study where I learned about parents. And parents aren't obvious because you can't see them unless you're using a professional software like SolarFire. But parents are the latitude crossing. So they're the lines that are going at a latitude through certain cities. So it's like the north of France will be very different from the middle of France, and the middle of France will be very different from the south of France. It all depends on what latitude you're at. And so when I first started, I just thought, oh, if you go to a Jupiter line or if you go to a sun line, that's the story. But it actually depends on what latitude you're on. And so the parens were created by 2 astrocartography lines. When they cross somewhere on the map, they will create a latitude line, a latitude crossing. And that line will go around the world. And there's a mileage of 75 miles max. So you could be 20 miles off of it and you're still getting the effects of it. It just diminishes as you get further away from it. So that's the first thing. The second thing was I didn't know at first that the map was created from multiple relocated charts. And so your birth chart is shifting and relocating, and you have different charts for different places. So like you could see your money story in Thailand versus your money story in France, or you could see your friendship and your following and the fan base or your community story in one part of the world versus compare it to another relocated chart for a different place. And you could see that area of life and it's different. So it's showing you the detail of what's happening in a chart. So that's the other thing. And a lot of astrocartographers that are just, they're influencers or social media people, and then they just make a course on it. They don't teach about like how to read a chart or like the parents. And so those are things I didn't know at first until I did my own research. And then the other thing was local space. And local space are the specific lines that go through. You could find it. You could basically use local space in your own place of where you're living, and you could see where those lines are going through in your town or city. So you could find the coffee shop that's really nice to go to, or what streets would be really nice to take meetings in for co-working spaces to get some work done. What would be a good writing spot? What would be a good place to, go on a trip together in my relationship? Like there's so many different little details of astrocartography that aren't obvious when you're first pulling up your map. And I had to learn that through experimentation and learning and trial and error and asking someone why was it so difficult for them on their beautifully placed Venus line, and not realizing, oh my God, there's a pair in there that's really difficult, So all this to say, I learned that a long time ago. And now I'm on a mission because I've learned that. And because I've then worked with so many clients and have seen it over and over again play out, I'm now on a mission to dismantle the simplification of astrocartography and teaching people how to be excellent astrocartographers so they don't make the same mistakes that I made and that a lot of people make when they're first learning this.
And that's what I love about you, because as a 3-5, again, we're here to call the bullshit.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
And it's really hard because we know, oh, people put us on this pedestal. I'm sorry, but I have to go down the pedestal and I have to tell you how it really is.
Exactly.
I tried it out and it doesn't work. And it's the same for human design, actually. There's so much fluff out there put into like nice little posts, but it is so specific and so individual. Like you this is actually what astrocartography and also human design is about, that no one can tell you from an Instagram post how it will work for you, because there's so many intricacies that change depending on your chart. And I think you are like the leading astrocartography educator, because it doesn't sound like you just want to share it. You want to share it profoundly and correctly.
Yes, exactly. And also, just because I've seen so many clients who they lived on their Venus line and their Venus line was so hard for them, always, even when they left and came back, it's always been hard for them. And it's like, because I've seen what works and what doesn't, it's like, I just want to make it easier for people. I want everyone to be in places where things are flowing more and things are more supported for them. And when I see people who don't know astrology, there's a lot of astrocartographers that don't know astrology or don't know how to read charts. When I see that online, I get so frustrated, because it's like, you could be sending someone to an area that's not safe or not helpful or not great for them. And it's like, I take it really seriously. I take astrocartography really seriously, because where you live, it really affects your life. And I think another thing that I am really called to and compelled to talk about is the idea of you can manifest anything. And I think for me, I grew up believing in law of attraction. My mom got me into The Secret when I was 10 years old. I've always believed in what you believe becomes your reality. And to an extent, it's true. What you think does influence what you do. And then when you take those actions, that can influence your world. Absolutely. But a lot of people in this Neptune and Pisces time are kind of talking about that you can control everything. You can manifest love in a day. You can manifest texts in a day. You can manifest money in a month. And it's just not a belief I hold anymore, because I've realized, being an astrologer, that it doesn't matter how much you believe something, your life is timed beautifully. And that gives you so much release and the ability to surrender and let go of control, so that you're not micromanaging or obsessing over everything that you think. You can just trust that you're going to be where you're meant to be. And there will be hard times. There will be challenging times. There will be good times, but it's what you make of it. And you can put yourself in better places in the world so that you're having a better quality of life. Your consciousness, the way you see life, is in a helpful way, but you're still going to go through hard transits. You're still going to have hard times. And I think a lot of people don't like to hear that. They just want everything to be amazing. And there was this quote I read, God, I think it was this morning or yesterday, where it was there's difficulty in life. And anyone who tells you that there isn't is selling you something. And it's this idea, I think that was The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride, the movie, said that in the movie. But it's that idea of you can make life magical, but also it's okay if there's hard times too. And it's how you deal with the hard times. And I just think in this world we're living in, this spiritual world, it's everyone thinks everything has to be magical and amazing, and it doesn't. And trust your timeline, trust yourself, trust your divine timing. And I think that's another thing I'm really feeling compelled to call out online and social media and everything is that just trust yourself, you know?
It's so aligned with what we're doing at Aligned, because I have also taken the To Be Magnetic course, and it's amazing for subconscious reprogramming and peeling back layers of conditioning.
Yeah.
But what I have found is that manifesting, it is exclusive to manifestors. So in human design, you have different energy types, and the manifestor is here to manifest things into existence. The generator is here to generate the life that they want. And that's why when you focus on your sacral pulse, you are generating your life. But it doesn't mean that just because you are following that gut, that all of a sudden you're going to get super rich or you're going to meet the love of your life tomorrow. It's actually very vain of us to think that we can control with our minds the path of our life. It doesn't work like that. Our soul came here with a mission, and the path is already created, and the intuition is basically trying to show you the fastest route to create the life that is meant for you. Whether your mind likes that or not, it's completely irrelevant.
I know. And it's our ego just wants to control everything. But what did our soul come here to do? What did our soul want to experience? What did our soul come here to experience and meet in people? That's something that our ego and our mind can't control. And so when we let go of that need to manifest everything and control everything through our mind and all of that, it's like that surrender is really magnetic, I think.
Exactly. And it was stressing me out so much that I have to think about what I want in my life, and then I have to manifest that with my thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could want a convertible car, but I could also want to ride on a horse. Like, I don't know. I have to try it out to know if it's something for me.
Yes, or maybe something would make you even happier and you can't even comprehend that yet. You don't even know what that reality looks like. Like, I never thought I would move to France. That's never been something I've ever wanted to do, but it happened and it flowed easily. And then we came out to France and I felt home for the first time, which is I'm on my Venus home line here. And it's the most beautiful energy in the Alsatian region of France. But I never would have known that if I manifested it or like tried to control it. I had to be led here. And that's when I discovered it,
Exactly. And I'm so happy that you're bringing this up, because this is really an important mission that also we at Aligned have, is that you need to get out of your head, out of your ego, and trust that the body is driving you through life. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it stops, but your mind is the passenger. The mind is looking out of the car ride and just checking, okay, here it's sunny and here it's raining. But it doesn't matter, because the journey continues. And if you are constantly jumping into the wheel and distracting the driver, which is your body, and saying, oh, you need to turn left here, while you don't even have the map and you don't even know where you're going, you're going to have this confusion of your mind and your body, and then you constantly feel tense. And the moment that I stopped chasing and I stopped manifesting in my head and actually listened to the little pings, turn right here, talk to this person, stop this course, my life really changed. And there's no judgment anymore to, oh, I have to make X amount of money. Because even if you have a lot of money, if you're stressed about losing the money, then it's also not enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, every day matters, and it's how you approach every day and how you decide to reflect on it and how you pivot and course correct. And I just think it's so much fun to live this way and experiment and play and just see what works. And Oh, it's so great to connect with a fellow 3-5. It's so refreshing.
I love it. And I think what you like, all of the things that, when someone is telling a story, I go through their chart and I assess, oh, wow, they're so aligned because they are being the person that they came here to be. Like when you're saying, hey, I don't have anything to prove, and you write this, what is it, the Stoic method, like nothing is good, nothing is bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the deconditioned ego. You and I, we have an open ego, which means we're not here to prove our worth. We do things that we like to do. Whether someone likes it or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when the ego is not deconditioned, it feels like, ooh, I have to do more. I have to commit. I have to be really, like, I have to have a lot of willpower. Our willpower is nothing that is consistent to us. For you, your energy, your motor is consistent to you. And for me, my capacity to recognize and guide others. And it's just, everyone always wants to be successful, but everyone has their own signature in life, which they use to know, oh, I think I'm on the right track here. And for you, your signature is satisfaction.
And so when I feel satisfied and like fulfilled and content.
Yes. And success can be a byproduct of that satisfaction. I'm not saying that you just have to be satisfied and live in a crappy house. That's not what it means. But every time, as you said earlier, when you were listening to other people and when you were taking their advice and implementing it, you started to feel frustrated. And frustration is a sign that you're not on the right track.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the like shadow part of me. Like we all have, emotions, sadness, depression, anger, all the things. My default when I'm in a low state is frustration. Always, it's frustration. And what's interesting is something that a ping or a download I got once when I was driving, because I often feel misunderstood in how I'm being received. Even though I'm just being myself and putting myself out there, people always project, right? And so I was driving in the mountains in Corsica, and I was living in Corsica, and I just had this download come through me, which is let them misunderstand you. Let them not get you. That's okay. And it was so peaceful. It was so loving. It just flew through me. It came through me. And ever since I got that energy of like, let them, it's okay. Project on me all you want. It's okay. Because I go back to myself to re-anchor self and love self and trust and like self. And when you like yourself and you really trust yourself, you could be misunderstood a million times. It really doesn't matter because you're anchored,
And you know what's true. And honestly, I'm curious to hear if you feel the same way, but I sometimes downplay myself because I know people put me on a pedestal and I know how it is to disappoint them. And then you drop from the absolute hero into you get burned at the stake. They're like, you're the worst thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I live in alignment with my design and I deliver my solution and I leave, and I also, 3/5s are not designed to stay in one commitment or like in relationships for super long. Yeah. And if we do, then the relationship changes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I'm actually experiencing that personally in my own life. My best friend of 15 years, like it hasn't felt aligned for like 5 years now. And I am someone that just wants to hold on and loyal and be there. But the more you try to fit things that aren't aligned or the values aren't aligned anymore, it's like the more difficult it is. You start getting resentful of the person, you start repressing things, and it gets worse. And for me, I've had to learn to let go of friends, let go of people. That's happened my whole life, is just allowing it to be there. And it doesn't mean there needs to be this big thing about it, but rather you just let them go slowly over time. And same thing with like followers, or just like people who you become friends with, who find you at a point in time and then you become friends. There's just that sense of like you worry about disappointing them, or the person they met is not who you are, or like you just worry about that. And what I've realized And what's come through me, because I've had to heal that relationship and that wound, because I have Chiron of the 11th. So it's big on like healing friendship, wound, community, all of that. But the thing that helped me was they were meant to get whatever they got from me for a period of time. And now they're in a different phase of life. They're on a different chapter. They're on a different path. But whatever they got from me, whether it was something I said or a video or whatever, they were meant to get that at that time, and they don't need to be here forever. They don't need to stick around because they're on their own soul path and they know when to leave, or if they're disappointed, so be it, like they'll move on, they'll find something else. But I've also had to like heal that relationship to like disappointing people when you've changed.
Yeah.
And like when you don't do the same thing anymore, you don't talk about the same thing, you don't make content, or you're just different, you believe different things at a new phase of life, and that's okay to disappoint people. And that's just, that piece has come from the allowance of letting them allow them. That's what their soul needs.
Yeah, and also allowing yourself to let go, because it's also an identity that I used to attach to myself, because I didn't know, when we were younger, there was one form of relationship. You stay together, you get married, and then you have kids, or you keep your friends from school. And that just never worked for me, because I have like very intense friendships for a period of my life. And unless the other person develops as well and learns and grows, I noticed that there's a point where I am completely a different person. Like, I start the month as one person, and I study and I learn and I implement and trial and error with so many things, that at the end of the month, I have a different consciousness. And what I realized is that my friendships, or the people that I'm friends with, they need to have the same thirst of personal development or of growth.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise I get bored.
I know. It's so true. And isn't there that scientific thing that says like our body's literally different every 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're constantly growing, Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard because especially if you just, love loyalty, you love familiarity and comfort, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Exactly. It's sometimes not hard and not easy to be yourself, but along the line, you will notice that the more you are dishonest to yourself, then others don't like you, and then you don't like yourself either, and then no one is happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, I love how deep we're going with this. Oh, I just love this so much. This is great because I'm a Scorpio rising. I just love going deep and
I love
going to the emotional.
Scorpios.
Yeah.
Because especially as a projector, I always like to go very deep. I hate small talk. I can't do it. And I love when people are like unafraid to look at the shadow sides of themselves and like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, even with like deeper things, like child free by choice, I'm child free by choice. My husband and I, we've always never wanted kids. And like when you talk about that and you're comfortable with your decision and you openly talk about whatever it is that you're confident in talking about, people will start going deep into why. Did you have a hard childhood? Do you have a hard relationship with your mom? They'll try to dissect things. So how do you gain energy? Is it not from that gut place? Is it more from...
So you can have a motor in if you're a projector, but the motors that you have as a projector are not regenerative. So you get, I would compare it, I love working in examples. Do you remember when you were, let's say, a holiday house with your family and they had a water tank and the whole family needed to shower? And you were the last person to shower, and all of a sudden the warm water turns into a Wim Hof experience. And this is how the projector energy tank works. You never know when the energy runs out.
Wow.
And that's why we get to structure our life not based on what we're doing, because I don't know, like I can work 2 hours a day and then I'm completely exhausted for the day, and I also don't know when the water tank or the energy tank will fill up again. So the way that we use our energy is by guiding other people and by seeing and observing, and then we help them to come in and into alignment. But what I do to regenerate my energy is I do a lot of yoga nidra. Do you know that? It's like a non-sleep deep rest meditation. You put it on and you go straight into this deep, I don't know what cycle of the sleep it is, but you go into the REM state.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in 15 minutes, you have like a better nap than if you had napped for 2 hours.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I noticed I have a lot of projector friends in my life. A lot of people in my life are projectors, and they need to sleep a lot. Like they need to meditate, they need to be alone. And they look at me doing all the things I do in a day, and they are exhausted just looking at me. And I have to tell them, do not compare yourself to me. Don't do it. Because I'll do 10, 12 different things in a day, and I'm still wide awake. So don't compare. I have to tell my projector friends that a lot.
Yeah, it's so important, that you're so reflected and aware of yourself. But I used to work in corporate, and I had a lot of colleagues that had the same energy as you. And obviously, the corporate world or the work world is made up for generators.
Yeah. Oh, it is totally.
And me as a projector, I stand next to them. I go, I have a lot of wisdom and I can guide you, but you want me to work 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. And I also, my good friend, she's a reflector.
Ooh.
And she just is. People just, it's interesting. She gets projected on a lot. And that's big with reflectors, right? Like a lot of people see themselves in her. Or there's like that sort of reflection, that mirror analogy. Yeah, I love human design. Oh, so fascinating.
It really is. I have a reflector friend as well. And I'm friends with her since I'm 13. And in the beginning, every time we went to a party, there was some sort of drama. There was something like she was crying, and I didn't understand. I just thought, oh, you're such a drama queen. And now that I know that she's a reflector, I understand every energy that is in her room. She absorbs it. Yeah. And if the energy is not good, if there's a little bit of ego energy, or people are angry or disappointed, she absorbs it, and then she needs to let it out.
Wow.
And these were the outbursts of energy where she was crying or just and now I understand. I'm I'm so sorry that I didn't understand you back then.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna have to text her and tell her that. I understand you. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. It's beautiful.
Okay, I would say I really loved the conversation with you, Helena. Thank you so much for that. I am very curious to hear, how can people find you, and what do you currently offer so that people can learn about astrocartography, so they can change their lives as well?
Yeah. I would first get my free guide. I have a free astrocartography guide, a free cheat sheet, so you can read what the lines mean. You can get that for free on my website. I have tons of free videos on YouTube, blog posts. I have so much free content I put online. And if you wanted to go deeper, I have a course, relocation astrology course, dozens of hours long. It was really in depth. Even if you're a beginner to astrology, I break down how to read a birth chart, all of it. And there's a great community that we have as well in the course. And to first get acquainted with your astrocartography, I would pull up astro.com, your free map on astro.com, and see what's in your area. What are the places you've been drawn to, starting from there. And then if you wanted to go deeper on latitudes and all of that, you can book a reading with me or learn it yourself in my courses. But there's so much to astrocartography, and it really depends on your birth chart and the placements of your planets and where they're at. For instance, if you have a really difficult Venus in your chart, going to a Venus line won't be as supportive as, say, that general information that's on astro.com. So that's why it's important to go deeper into your personal Venus and what your Venus says about your life. I try to post every day if I can, when I have my gut response is excited to talk about something or inspired to share something. And so you can follow me at Ms. Helena Woods or my website, helenawoods.com.
Thank you so much, Helena, for that. I think you're a true inspiration and you're so embodied already in your essence and in your energy. And everything that you embody is what we're teaching at Alliance to help people to get to the state that you are.
Wow.
So.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. The only thing I could say is, like, if you don't love journaling, like, going deep into your subconscious, you can learn a lot about your soul and what your soul came here to do by going deep into meditation in your subconscious. That's where I've gained the most invaluable insights about what to do, what actions to take, who I am, is connecting with my soul on a subconscious level in meditation. So I don't know if that will help anyone.
I agree. I totally agree. Thank you so much. And we'll stay in touch on Instagram. And you guys, you have to follow her because she has so many videos, even also on YouTube. She's very generous with the information she gives. And her energy alone is just very contagious.